Call this meeting to order, starting with the determination of the quorum, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, we have 7 members present and 0 absent, so we do have a quorum.
I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, thank you everyone for being here tonight. A couple of comments. Apparently we've been informed that the the normal audiovisual system of the room is not working at the current time to broadcast this live. So we are recording it and it will be broadcast at a later date, but it's not being broadcast live at this point. I had some suggestions for changes to the agenda. First of all, for the closed session, item 13, I want to clarify that that is going to be a closed session for the board to begin to discuss negotiations for contracts. Item 10B, we are going to move into item 7C. It'll become a part of that discussion. The discussion is really focused on a policy that is involved in 7C for second reading. So we're going to do that. Are we going to keep the community ed report where it is?
No, I think we'll move that, if it's okay, up to 7C as well. Then we can get Anne-Marie out of here.
All right, so we're going to also put 9C into 7C so that so we can have the community ed matters taken care of earlier in the meeting. So a little bit of moving around. Any questions or concerns about that or anything else with the agenda? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda with the corrections as stated earlier. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, and I think I saw Ken just walk in, so we can start there. Item number 3, recognitions and awards. We have a very special recognition tonight, so Ken, I don't know if you want to come forward at this time. Ken Hubert, a longtime activities director here in Faribault, has been recognized as the 1AA Activities Director of the Year. Todd, maybe you want to say a little bit more about that.
Well, I just wanted to congratulate Ken, and it's a great honor, and certainly by his peers who have nominated him for this this great award, and we really appreciate everything that you've done for us. And I know that you were in a close battle for the state award too, and we appreciate that as well.
Was there a nice plaque that came with this?
Actually, there were 2 because the first one had my name spelled wrong.
Did you get to keep both though?
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I do appreciate the support that the board gives the activities program overall. You know, we've got a great program. I don't know how many of you made it over this weekend to Wizard of Oz to see the best that our kids have and can give, and you know, it's things like that make you proud to work in this community. So, but thank you.
One more time. Okay. Next on our agenda is community comment. This is a time for any members of the community to come forward and share any items of information or thoughts or concerns with the board that they might have. There is a 3-minute time limit per speaker and a 15-minute limit per topic. We do ask that all speakers coming forward are respectful to all members of the community, including members of the board and staff members of the district and anyone in attendance tonight. So with that, any members of the community who would like to come forward and speak at this time?
Hello, my name is Christopher David, and I'm a sophomore at the Faribault Senior High School. I am here today to ask you once again to please keep the ALS program. My two friends and I, along with our parents, have spent the last 4 weeks working diligently to try to help save the ALS program. We have met face-to-face with 94 businesses in the Faribault, Northfield, Kenyon, and Owatonna area. If you could just imagine for a moment how much time would go into meeting face-to-face with 94 businesses, along with stopping back and again and making follow-up phone calls, you can see a lot of time has went into this. My friend and I gave up our spring break to work on this, and our parents have spent the following weeks following up with everyone and making as many new contacts as they could. We have talked with every car dealership, repair shop, banks, and manufacturing companies that would have an interest in keeping the ALS program. We have found widespread support from the programs, as well as businesses being shocked, as most of them didn't even know that the ALS was slated to be cut. They also expressed a concern in cutting the class because we are an industrial community and we need programs like this to help support our businesses by supplying them with local workers who have trade skills. Metcon, for example, has tons of jobs, but no one to fill them because there are so few people with trade skills. Our MRG, McKay's, and KNG manufacturing all need people to have trade skills. Not to mention all the dealerships and repair shops who need mechanics as well. We have also found out from surrounding communities such as Northfield and Owatonna, they don't want to see it go away either because their towns have lost their auto program and have hurt as a result of it. They're hoping that the school can keep the program as well as hooking up with the colleges so that their students have the possibility of coming over. All the businesses that we talked to said that Mark Lussman does a great job with his students, and his students have very marketable skills at all levels in his ALS program. Whether they did all 4 years or just a few years, we cannot afford to lose this program. In talking with agencies, we did ask if folks would be willing to help donate money. All the agencies we asked to wanted to help give, and strongly believed in the program. Some could give, and some simply could not afford to do so. But we did find businesses who could give, and so far we have gotten $10,800 in pledges. We do have a few more businesses to hear back from, mostly out-of-town businesses, and we are hoping to hear soon. We are not sure how much more money we will get or if we can achieve this amount of money needed or how close we can come to that number, but we have given it our very best. I'm asking all of you, along with my classmates and our parents, for you to consider helping us keep the program. It's a valuable academic program, and there are many who would greatly benefit from it. I know that I have given this my personal best and have worked very hard. Also, please keep in mind that the time is running out and we need to have plans in place in order to keep the cars, certification, and tools that Mr. Lessman has. Also, if you didn't know, the auto students who competed this spring just won 2 brand new cars in their recent competition. We would hate to see our school lose them, especially seeing that the students work so hard to earn them. We are doing all that we can to do, and we need your help. Wondering on your thoughts.
Thank you very much, Christopher.
Good evening, Superintendent Seeker, members of the school board. I'm Mike Lane, and I'm the Minnesota Field Manager for Automotive Youth Educational Systems. And I just learned of the hard work that the parents and the students have went through to keep the advanced courses at Faribault High School for the automotive program. And so even though it's a very snowy evening and I come from St. Cloud, I wanted to spend just a few moments and talk. This is actually my third trip in front of the school board here at Faribault High School. Back in '03, and I don't know if any of you were here at that time or were elected at that time, but I came to talk about what could happen to the automotive program if they went through the accreditation process, which we call NATEF, which is a standards-based automotive curriculum to ensure that what is trained at the high school is what the manufacturers and the dealers want and need. So I came down here to do a presentation and talk about that. The second time I came to Faribault was to celebrate the national win that the automotive students from Faribault High School had won the National Ford AAA contest. After winning numerous state competitions, he had finally a national winner, first time in Minnesota, coming out of this community. And now here tonight, I'm here to celebrate the work, the hard work of students and parents trying to keep those advanced classes which keep the program into the accreditation standards. You've just heard of young people going out there to support the belief that there is a good career in the automotive industry, where we really need high-skilled, high-technology young people that can communicate, much like that young man just did in front of you folks. And I bet he probably was pretty scared, to be honest with you. I basically came here tonight to say that I'm celebrating, and I'm also asking you to hopefully work with us to keep that program. I know that we've had numerous conversations with South Central College to develop next year a strengthened, some form of a dual enrollment arrangement for those advanced classes so that students could receive not only high school credit but also college credit while they're here. And it just is going to take some time to put together the paperwork and the structure for that to happen, but I know that I have a committed teacher, and I believe I've heard favorable from the superintendent saying that that's definitely the right direction to go to ensure the program has got a long-term stability. Maybe just one moment in closing. I would just simply say to you, as I look back over the 11 years that I've worked with the Faribault High School program, it is one of our shining stars in Minnesota. I currently also work with 8 other programs, and I also would call them my shining stars. But if you think about it, in the state of Minnesota, all I can really talk about is 9 programs. That's kind of dismal when you think about all the cars that are around that get driven every day. Programs like that need to exist, and we need to support them. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Jennifer David, and I'm Christopher's mom. And I don't know if you guys have any questions about any of the businesses that we've talked to or anything that you want to ask as far as how that's going. I would probably be best to answer those questions if you had any.
We don't typically do questions and answers at this time. But I'd be happy to have a conversation afterwards, and I think most of the rest of the board would, and we definitely are very thankful for the work that you're doing.
All right, thanks. We appreciate it. We really hope you guys consider it. We worked hard. We've done everything we could, and I think it's a great program to keep. The students in this program are excellent, and as Mike was saying, there's very few automotive programs left, and it would be nice to be able to keep ours. And if we could hook up with the colleges, I know that the communities in Owatonna, Northfield, and Kenyon are very interested in this and really want to see it continue, because if we can hook up with the colleges, that would mean their students would have access to an autos program too. And so I think that would be a really great thing for our school to be the first one in the state to do something like this. I think it would really speak highly of our town and really would draw a lot of attention to our school. So I thank you for all that you've done, and I hope that we can make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any other comments from the community? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on with the agenda, but I do want to say thank you to everyone who came and spoke. You are being listened to, I guarantee it, and we thank you all for your efforts and your time. All right, next in our agenda, the consent agenda, as presented in front of you. Are there any items in the agenda that anyone would like to remove for discussion?
Clarification on the additional assignments.
Just point of order. I think if you have a question, we have to remove it from the consent agenda, then we can discuss it. So if you just tell me what it is, we can remove it, and then you can ask questions.
The B. Item B.
B or C, you said additional assignments?
Let's see. Which number?
Looks like C.
Contracts and activity contracts / assignments.
It is that's C. Item C. So you'd like to remove item C from the consent agenda. So we're going to handle that separately then. So is there anything else in the consent agenda that anyone would like to remove? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with item C removed. We need to do a roll call, Mr. Clerk.
In alphabetical order. I'll vote aye. Tom Casper.
Aye.
Deb Davis.
Aye.
Jason English.
Aye.
Yvette Marthaler.
Aye.
Richard Olson.
Aye.
Jerry Robichaud.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 7-0 in favor.
All right, so we passed the consent agenda. Now, item C, Richard, you had a clarifying question.
Yeah, on the hiring of Patrick Kunkel, I think that's how you pronounce it, February 6th to April 27th, 2012, I think that's 13. That's the only clarification. That's
Yeah, I
it.
know, I'm sorry to be a stickler.
It's okay, that's it. That's it.
I'm sure that's what's intended there, is it 2013? So, okay. Thank you.
That's it.
Mr. Olson.
That's it. Nothing else.
All right. So, given that, I'll entertain a motion to approve with the correction as noted by Mr. Olson for additional assignments. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second to approve item C, additional assignments and other. So I don't think we need to do a roll call then for this since we removed it. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, there's no report from the curriculum committee this evening.
Actually, we can.
I was going to say that we
report.
could. We did meet.
We did. We had-
Perhaps you want to report about what we met about, Mr. Sesker.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the social studies curriculum, and they're getting closer to the curriculum that they're choosing, and they'll discuss that more at the next curriculum committee. Then we also talked a little bit about the board had given me the instruction to, or given me the direction to come up with some validity for the possibility of incorporating technology into our curriculum, pre-K through 12. So we went through some of the research and the possibilities of implementing the technology curriculum pre-K through 12, and then also incorporating some methodology to go along with it. The one thing that I would emphasize when we're looking at possibly increasing technology is to make sure that we do this in a purposeful and strategic manner, that we're not just adding technology just for the sake of adding technology, but there has to be some sort of rhyme or reason for adding technology into the curriculum. And it should all stem and be based on student achievement, graduation rates, all those different data that we collect that show that we are improving learning for kids.
Yeah, I would just add that it was an excellent presentation to the curriculum committee. There was some nice positive feedback on it, and I think it will then come back to this board, likely at our May, I think for sure at our May 2nd work session as one of the major topics of discussion for that work session.
If I may, again, I apologize to my colleagues. I was not able to get back for that committee meeting due to the seasonable weather. Anyway,
I do have a question that might be addressed at that next curriculum meeting regarding the status of what was a technology skill curriculum being delivered, particularly through the elementary grades, in terms of some keyboard training and that sort of thing. So I guess I'd be interested in an update of where we are with that curriculum at this point, and add that into the discussion of effective uses of technology, pre-K-12, however.
Do you want to know just the elementary? We put some examples of probably a lot of senior high and middle school technology, how we've incorporated, but do you want specifically elementary?
Well, I guess my question would be is, what is, back in the days when I was an active employee or an employee of the district, the technology committee had developed a scope and sequence for technology skills, and I believe it was a K-12 document at that time, and I'm just not sure of what the status of that process is.
Okay, yep, I got you.
Anything else, questions on that report? As a board, we will be following up with that discussion. I think that linked at our May 2nd meeting. All right, next on to the policy committee. We have a policy committee report from the April 9th meeting. Is there someone here who's going to do this report for us?
Is this policy?
Policy.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Policy.
Were you there, Debbie?
I don't go anymore.
Oh, that's wrong. Oh, policy. Sorry. I can't keep track of all of you. So.
Well, I think you can see we reviewed some policies regarding the board and the name of the school. Those are policies I think that were suggested by the association for the boards, and that seems pretty simple. They just added particulars with our school district. I suppose the issue for discussion was regarding the facilities use policy, which probably we'll talk more about in a few moments. But I think the policies speak for themselves, but if I'd be happy to answer any questions that people have after looking at them.
Are these replacement policies or are they new policies?
I think the majority of these are new, just recommended by the board association that we have them in our policy.
And it pretty well coincides with the way we've been operating?
I thought.
Yeah, we went through all of them.
There were some minor issues about what committees we had versus what other committees were in the policy. So I think Kathy probably just added our particulars to them.
The ones that we require in our district.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Apologize I wasn't there, but I would just make a suggestion under policy 302, superintendent general statement of policy. Excuse me, the school board shall employ a superintendent who shall serve or who is licensed in the state of Minnesota as a superintendent. And then the rest of it to
So that would be the first reading.
Yep. So we can come back to us with that edit next month.
I got it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
On policy 101.1, the name of the school district, how did this come about? I mean, through MSBA or, what? And we're going to rename our district?
Well, you could if you voted on it, but no. We just put in Faribault Public Schools ISD 656 into the policy, and it's just a format that MSBA gives us. It's probably more due to all the documentation that comes from MDE, so they can make sure that they match the correct website when they send all that data to us. So it's a formality more than anything else. It's not required to have a policy. We just put it in there to match what MDE is doing.
Okay. So I think informally here we have moved on to consider the introduction of the following policies for first reading. I've already asked a couple questions about those. Are there any other questions? Not hearing any. We'll assume we have no questions on these policies at this time. There's quite a few of them, so I would encourage you to make sure that you take a nice look at them and suggest any edits to Todd so that they could be considered at the next policy committee meeting. And then they will come back to us next month to act on. Okay. So unless there's further questions, I'm going to move on to the policies for second reading. Now we have 3 policies in front of us this evening. I'm going to make a suggestion that we save 902 to the last of those 3, and under the thought that policy 710 and 203 will be shorter conversations, so perhaps we can take care of those first and then move on to policy 902. So we had policy 710, extracurricular transportation, and policy procedures for policy 203, organizational meeting and conduct of meetings, in front of us last month as well. I would be happy to entertain a motion on both of those items at once, if there's someone with a desire to do so.
I'll make a motion to approve those policies as they're currently.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve policy 710, extracurricular transportation, as well as procedures for policy 203, organizational meeting and conduct of meetings. Any discussion on those 2 items? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, these 2 policies are approved. So then we will move on to policy 902, use of school district facilities and equipment. Todd, how do you want us to walk through that?
I think that maybe we'll have Anne Marie come up, if that's okay, to talk a little bit about that. We're trying to, I'll start with it and then certainly interject, Anne Marie, when you need to. We want to encourage as many community members to use our facilities as possible, and so since we are going through a transition, we want people to understand that our facility maximum use policy is to go through community ed. So if people want to utilize the facility, whether it's for their organizations or their groups or whatever it might be, then we want to make sure that we streamline that so there's not any confusion, that it goes through our community ed office so we know who's in the building and what's being assigned. We're currently working on some software. Well, actually, we have the software, working with the software to go ahead and develop that. But maybe for the board's purpose, you could summarize the facility use policy and how that's going and how that all works.
Sure.
And
Oh, go ahead.
Maybe
Please.
just clarify, this is just a general statement about the use of facilities moving to community ed. This is separate from the other
Procedure.
policy which we're still working on, or
I see.
the
Okay.
addition.
Yeah, and Yvette's referring to 1004.1, and that is being revised. I worked on it this weekend. It was a really fun weekend. And working on it internally first to really hash out the fee structure and make sure all of the different people who have a piece of that, like the buildings and grounds person, Ken with activities, just making sure that we have that policy revised as well as good as possible before we bring it to the policy committee. But 902, this is just an amendment that clarifies that we won't be charging any fees for the following 3 things that I have on there, which are national, local, county elections, which is one of them, which is in statute. We can't charge them to hold meetings. Also, sports associations, other groups like that for practices, we want to make sure that is not fee-based. And I don't have this in front of me, and remind me of the third thing that's
City
on there.
Park and Rec.
Yep, Faribault City Park and Rec. So that's just an addendum coming out of the policy committee in terms of a strong recommendation to move that forward, especially around the sports association piece.
Well, just a quick question: Will that piece go into 1004.1?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but that won't go actually into this policy,
No,
the 902,
it
will
won't.
it? Okay.
The 902 policy is just the precursor. That language is also adopted in 1004.1. So it's all kind of merged together, but
that particular statement will be in 1004.1.
And to clarify, perhaps we'll end up talking mostly about a policy that's not in front of us, but my understanding of that policy right now are, and I think there's a lot of questions that have been raised in the community about this right now. Many of the activities, the association practices and such that take place in the district, as the policy is currently written, should be getting charged.
Yes, it's
right?
really
That's part of
vague,
the
it's
confusion.
gray, exactly. That's why when I started looking at
So to clarify that
thank you.
and,
Yep.
and to follow whatever our intent is, and
Yes.
it sounds like the recommendation is going to come to us to make sure that we are not charging for those, and I think that's an important clarification. Is going to be clarified then in that policy. Okay.
Correct, thank you.
So we have to take two separate actions. One is first we just need to adopt this new policy, which is really just doesn't mention anything about fees in it.
Right.
It's just saying the community and will be taking over the plan of scheduling and organizing.
Yep.
Any question, Mr.
I
Olson?
wonder if all this tied together, because it's pretty important, if this should be in a work session, that we should table this.
Well, I can certainly talk to you more. I can explain it more too, Richard. We can spend some more time discussing it if you'd like, because maybe it's not clear that we're not really doing anything with the fee structure tonight beyond adding or amending the current policy, which is stating that we're not going to, if we agree, if the board agrees to that. We're going to just amend the old policy before we look at the new policy as far as the fee. So tonight, this first policy that we're looking at here, if you read through it, all it's stating is that community ed will be taking over the responsibility of scheduling the use of facilities, is how I'm reading it. That's the policy that we're looking at for a second reading.
So, yeah, I guess in answer to your question, Mr. Olson, I'd want to get a sense from the entire board of wanting to do that. I don't have an objection to that, but I guess I'd like to hear more about what questions or concerns you have at this time about 902, which is the one in front of us. I guess if I would like to hear what it is we can't answer tonight before we decide to table it. Usually if I want to table something, it's because I feel like there isn't the information in front of us. So if you have questions or concerns tonight?
With community ed doing this, that's a change in our facilities, and I'd like to handle everything, even with the costs or no costs, or should we charge people, or who has access. Instead of piecemeal, I would like, I would like to have at least some total package, when they complete all their policies and whatever, one shot, combine everything, instead of you got this policy, then you got over here, then are you going to combine it with something? It just, who can or cannot use our facilities. And then it's going to come under community ed, which is a change. I think that's a big change. So it's, at least in my opinion, it's worth at least a work session when they've completed all their materials to bring it forward. This is a big thing, in my opinion.
Right. What are other feelings on this item?
I appreciate what you're saying, Mr. Olson. However, process and governance of the district and the function of the board is to empower committees to make recommendations to the board based on the best information they can receive. I would hate to see a precedent set up that if I do not like a policy that is being developed or an action by the Finance Committee, that we defer that to a work session as well. So I, for one, feel that the Policy Committee is doing its diligence and looking at these policies, and will bring forth a very sound recommendation as to what is in the best interest of the district.
I guess I can speak to the issue of policy 1004.1, that there is a lot of discussion and work going on around that policy development, and Anne Marie's been working on it and getting input from the community, and will be presented, I'm guessing, at the next, when with the next policy, the June 9th policy committee, we would be discussing your policy recommendation before we brought it to a first reading for the board. And that is, I think, the policy that we have received a lot of input on, and we are working on that policy.
I think our focus tonight is on this policy 902.
Right.
That we don't even have any other policy on the docket or the agenda to discuss anything beyond that point.
Could you say something a little bit more about what the change to having these items run through community ed will mean for the activities who are working with them, and what it will mean for the district?
The one big change that we're going to make when it comes through community ed is we will have an online registration system, an online facilities system. We will have the ability to have a master schedule of all of the activities of who's in and out of our buildings, which I think, based on the safety presentation we just had not too long ago, is a really good thing to do. It's been done by building secretary right now.
I was going to ask. Currently, this is being done building by building.
Yep.
Right?
And there's also been just some challenges with groups wanting space and perhaps getting there and the space is already occupied. Not that this system will be perfect and remedy all of those issues to begin with 100%, but I believe that this will help smooth out some of those issues that we've been facing in the district. So that's one big thing. The other piece about facility use is community education is charged by the state, really, to make sure that we have equal access to our facilities. So it is philosophically within the community education realm that facilities is run through community education, and most districts do have that going on right now. The 300 and whatever districts we have, most are through community education. Is there anything that you want to add?
I can also add, I mean, just to maybe not confuse it more, but I also would plan after we look at this policy to ask for an amendment to the current facility use policy so we can continue the practice of not charging rent for associations to use for practice.
That's a plan to do this evening?
Yes, I would like to propose that we do address that issue after we get done with this one. So I don't, I want to just say that we will continue to discuss that facilities use fee issue further, but that's separate from approving this policy.
I think, and maybe I can just address it now because I could be wrong about this, but I think point of order, we cannot change a policy without the timing of a first reading and second reading.
Correct.
So I think this board couldn't, if it wanted to right now, make that amendment to the policy this evening. I think that's correct. And
correct.
That's not a statement for or against the change, but I think the reason why you have a first and a second reading is so that we post the policy, people have a time to look at it, the community has time to respond to it. And I think my understanding is that's in statute and by law, so we don't have the ability to go around that. And before we make a change to policy, I want to make sure that we're not circumventing that.
Okay, so let me make a suggestion then. It's kind of putting Anne-Marie Leland and I kind of out there right now because we're not currently following policy that was developed 10 years ago.
Right.
So we need to at least confirm that we have support from the school board that we're not going to charge those 3 items that our community ed director has specified, similarly to the way they haven't charged over the past few years, and giving us some sort of resolution that it's okay to do that. Otherwise, we're going to be in that conundrum all over again.
Understood. Maybe there's a short-term action we can take tonight to do that. That is short of modifying policy, and the effect would probably be the same. But again, I want to make sure that we're trying to stick to the letter of the
you're right,
as I understand them. So I have no objection to talking about that and trying to satisfy that this evening. I think that's a good plan. But we have to be careful about how we do this, is all I would suggest. So coming back to 902, with those things in mind, are there further questions on 902 and the involvement of community ed in the scheduling of our buildings?
I just want to ask, is it important to do this piece tonight so you can work on the next piece?
Yes.
And can you explain that a little
The
bit?
902, though, isn't right. The 902 you don't need to continue on, do you?
No,
No.
that gives community education the charge to do the work. So as I've been working on the revision of 1004.1, I probably shouldn't have done that until because I spent a lot of time yesterday. So I probably shouldn't have done that until we have permission to move forward on that. So 902, with you approving the change to 902, moves us forward so we can continue to revise what we need to do and make sure that we do get the statement that Yvette is talking about in that policy, so we can implement it as of July 1st of 2013.
So I'm just trying to digest what Richard is asking here, that we...
So what you said,
Consider it all in one.
902 comes first before you can go on, right? Step one?
Yes. That's the actual charge. That's shifting what was happening, which I believe it was just general school district administration charged with that, and all of the different buildings had the ability to say yes or no to the different groups coming in. So now you are charging community education with that task. So doing that with 902 gives us permission to move forward on revising the other policy.
So it sounds like it is important that we do that tonight.
Yep.
I think it's important, and I guess I'll just add, I think it's a good thing. I think this is the natural thing for community ed to be doing. I think it helps community ed build relationships with the various programs within the community, and that's exactly what community ed is charged with doing. And I think it helps to unify things throughout the district so that buildings are not following different policies and procedures as they do that, just by nature of having various staff do this. So it strikes me as a win-win here.
Mr. Chair, Anne Marie, I don't, I'm not following it perhaps the way I should, but I don't see those exclusionary causes in this policy 902, those three organizations that you referred to.
No, that's because it's embedded in 1004.1, which we don't have in front of you tonight.
Okay, so there's nothing in this policy
Nope.
that addresses those three agencies or organizations.
Nope. This is just the general purpose and statement of policy moving community education to be charged with facilities.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt policy 902. Any further discussion?
I think still we're doing piecemeal. I think so. It just, what I'm hearing, I'm confused, what comes first, and, we'd be changing this policy, then it just, to me, it's,
Sure.
I just,
So to be
I
clear,
mean, I believe in this, it's just that it seemed to be piecemeal a little bit.
we have to be clear at this point, we have a policy in front of us, policy 902, that puts the scheduling and use of district facilities under the purview of community ed. There is a separate policy that addresses the fee schedule for that, and we will address that perhaps somewhat tonight as well for a short-term fix and in a long-term policy. But I think there are two separate questions here. Comfortable moving forward with this piece of it. Any further discussion? Mr. Clerk, would you please do a roll call on this vote?
I'll vote aye. Tom Casper,
Aye.
Deb Davis,
Aye.
Jason Ingrid,
Aye.
Yvette Marthaler,
Aye.
Richard Olson,
No.
and Jerry Robichaud. Mr. Chairman, the vote is 6-1. 6 in favor, 1 against.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Okay, so we have a follow-up question, which is there's currently an issue of for a long period of time, our district has been not following our policy when it comes to the regards of charging fees to associations. And this puts our administrators in a very awkward position of either not following the district policy, which they are charged with doing, or making changes to the practice within the district that many people would like to not see change. And so we'd like to rectify that. So specifically, we are currently not charging associations for practice time within the district. But our policy would I think, clearly state that we should be. And so if we're going to continue with the practice of not charging, I think we do need to give some official statement to our staff that they are okay with doing that. I'm not sure what that can come in the form of. Do we have suggestions from the board on a motion that might, if we simply made a motion that the board gives community ed
Well, they use discretion in defining class 1 of the current policy? Would that be something?
Well, that's a regulation, and we can change administrative procedures and regulations without doing the first reading, second reading.
1004.1 is a regulation, or
part of that policy is regulations.
Okay, the regulations are on the back of it.
Correct.
So the rental classification, you think would be considered?
Yeah, because there's a whole rules and regulations, the use of facilities and equipment, administration procedures. We can change procedures and regulations without having to go first and second reading. But before we get there, the first 2 pages of 1004.1 is exactly 902.
Exactly.
Why do we have 2 policies for the same thing?
902.
I don't know. I wondered the same thing myself.
No, 902 we ratified 10/17/11 originally was adopted.
And in looking at other district policies, some have, like Rochester has just converted everything to 902, and they've gotten rid of 1004.1. So.
And see, that would make sense to me because we don't need the first part of this policy. We need the administration procedures and regulations. But then that would go back to first and second reading.
You still, since the board at some point adopted the entire policy 1004.1 with all the procedures and regulations, you're still going to have to go through that first reading and second reading for that, what you're just talking about. But I do agree with you with the procedure part. There is some, I believe anyways, there is some leeway for the board to give us permission to stay with current practice and not charge the association the fees for practice.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
Before we move any further, I'm a little concerned about the procedure here. We approved an agenda which did not have this on the agenda, and I don't believe it's appropriate for us to take any action on anything that is not on the agenda or was not approved as part of the agenda, amended agenda. First, I don't think we should be taking any action on anything that's not on the agenda.
Can I just to clarify, when we originally had Roman numeral 10, letters A and then letter B and letter C, if you look at letter B on the agenda, there actually was a discussion action item for discuss and approve charges to youth athletic associations for practice. I just didn't know if it fit underneath the policy piece or the procedure piece.
And it did have action under it. So
fine, go ahead.
Important point, though. Thank you. So I'm just to make a suggestion. If we, as a board, gave approval for the community ed director and superintendent to use their discretion for which groups fall under which of the fee schedules for a temporary period of time until such that we can examine that policy and have a policy in place for a permanent, for a more permanent setting of this. Would such a motion address your needs, Mr. Sesker?
Yeah, we just need reaffirm from the board that we don't have to charge. That's it.
I think by giving you discretion of how to assign groups to that for a short period of time.
how you guys want to formulate that motion is up to you.
How does that sound to the rest of the board?
Point of order, it's not on the agenda.
It is on the agenda.
It is.
It's item 10B. Yep.
10B?
Yep, which we talked about moving forward. Yep.
Okay. It's...
So it was 10.
Yep.
Yeah, it is on there,
You
Mr.
know why I
Olson.
said the table is...
Pardon me? So it was 10B originally, and then we agreed to move it to this section.
We're talking about instructing the policy committee. So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we instruct the policy committee to incorporate into this policy on the use of facilities that we continue not charging for the elections for the Parks and Rec Department and for the sports associations for their practices, etc.
And the third one. There's three.
Yeah, it was the elections, Parks and Rec,
Parks and Rec.
and the sports organizations.
Yep. In the local, state, national elections and caucuses.
Yes.
They can't get charged.
Yes.
Could you read the motion? Or say it again?
Maybe
Sorry.
Kathy can read it back to us and she has it recorded because that's what will go into the minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, the
Once you're ready,
motion,
Kathy.
the motion is to give the school district the right to remove, do you want to say remove, or just not act upon the following in policy 1004.1, state and federal elections, park and recs, and sports association practices. No charges for those.
That sounds better than what I said.
Well,
So I like it. And since it hasn't been seconded yet,
okay.
let's use it.
So the motion maker agrees that is currently the motion. We'll go there.
Could I ask for a point of clarification? Would Parks and Rec include adult activities? Is that inclusive?
Define adult activities?
Non-students, people over 18 participating in park and recreation programs, adult basketball, adult volleyball.
Right, I think that's, I had a discussion with the director of Park and Rec, and that's kind of what he was getting at.
All right, so then, unless we were to change the wording, this would not apply to non-athletic users of our facilities?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Well, I don't know how much it may be used. I know it was used more in the past before the Paradise Center opened, but there are community theater groups, perhaps choral groups, musical groups, those types of people that might. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have, I started in July, so I don't have a history of all of the usage, but I believe that some of those groups have moved to the Paradise. I don't think we have a lot of those groups coming in. And here's the thing. This is a difficult discussion because all of those other things are defined, and we're working through that in the procedural part of this, the procedure and regulation. So it's I don't know. I think we need to review that policy in whole. But these things clearly have come up from the community. That's why we're trying to address those tonight.
Before we entertain a motion here, I think we're in a difficult situation here because we placed our administrators are in a very difficult position right now of by practice being asked to implement procedures that do not coincide with policy, and that's a very difficult position to put them in. And we've realized this. I mean, this has been what's happening for many years, but now that we've realized it. I think the point of any action tonight, from my perspective, is that we give the policy committee a chance to breathe and clarify all of these questions so that they have time to do this correctly, but that simultaneously we give our administrators some leeway so that in the short term while that's happening, they're not in a position of continuing to break the policy of the district. And I think that's the conundrum we're in. We have both a short-term and a long-term issue, and we shouldn't try to solve the long-term issue tonight. I think Mr. Olson and Mr. Casper's questions raised good questions that those are long-term questions that we ought to look at when that policy comes forward to us.
I'm going to add another question. When you say athletic associations, are those only associations that are in Independent School District 656 boundaries? Or can somebody from Burnsville or Apple Valley or Northfield or whomever other district wants to come in and use our facilities free?
The intent, and certainly you can clarify from what my discussions, that these are all 656 athletic connections with our school district.
I think it needs to be very clear that we do have the discretion to charge out-of-district organizations to use the facilities.
And I agree with you 100% with that.
So my suggestion, and this is just a suggestion, I'll entertain any seconds or motions, but my suggestion is that we do not second Mr. Bodie's motion because I think it contains some specifics, which frankly I'm not sure that we are equipped at this moment to try and clarify. That should come really from thoughtful discussion and chance from study from the policy committee. So my suggestion would be that we do not second that motion, we allow it to pass, and then we perhaps I would entertain a motion to simply give Mr. Sesker and Ms. Leland discretion at this time to choose which programs would fall under which fee schedule. But that would be a temporary, so I'd probably put a date on that of perhaps July 31st, since that looks like the timing of when we can have that back for second one. And then permanently, this would be all of these important questions I think would be addressed in the policy as it came for us.
So would it work for us just to suspend the policy that applies here until July 31st?
No, I still think we need the policy because we still have some of those. It's working for a lot of those groups. There right now are 3 different categories that we have right now. We just probably need to put an additional category and improvise that, and that's what's going to take a little bit more time for us to talk about.
And one of the things that I've looked at other districts and come up with is maybe a 1A. So that is for school affiliated programs. So they're not 1 but 1A, which is almost 1. So
ISD
almost class
656 school
right.
affiliated
Yeah.
programs.
Yeah.
But to try and move us along, we have a motion in front of us. We do need to ask if there's a second. So maybe I'll wait for a second. And Kathy, if you want to read back that motion. You heard my suggestion, but we do have the motion, so we do need to.
Howard's motion.
Howard's motion.
Okay.
You want to read back it as it stands?
Okay, for policy 1004.1, the administrative procedures, that the fee structure for that policy will remove the following: elections for state and federal, park and recs, and sports association practices.
All right, so you've heard my suggestion that we let that one go, but if there's a second, I'll entertain a second at this time. If not, I'll declare that motion failing for lack of a second. Is there another motion that we want to make towards that end?
I have a proposal.
Yes, please.
I move that the Faribault School Board direct the school administration to use its discretion in determining usage fees for school facilities from the present day through July 31st, 2013.
The intent here is really to keep it as it is, by practice.
Current practice.
Exactly.
Really to keep it in current practice.
Could you say that again?
I move that the Faribault School Board direct the school administration to use its discretion in determining usage fees for school facilities from the present day, April 22nd, 2013, through the 31st of July, 2013.
Sounds good to me. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second.
Has some questions. I think that puts our administration, I know it's current practice, but it puts the administration in a very difficult position to use their discretion. What criteria are they going to use? I think basically they're not going to charge anybody for use of the facilities. I think that's the way it takes them off the hook of trying to say yes to one and no to another. And Unless it's out of the district, then I think you certainly have that discretion. But
Yeah, and the
that's a
other,
I think it's a very different challenge to our administration to try and administer that.
From the present day.
Do you have another idea?
I think I said the date.
No, I'm just talking to the motion.
Well, how about if we discussed it, we said they have the discretion to not charge these groups during that time?
I think that I'm okay with Tom's motion because I think that does say that, and that gives us a leeway to do that. So
we just add these groups to specific to the motion? Is that?
you can, I guess.
We could. We would need an amendment entertained to do that. I'll suggest I would, with all due respect to Mr. Robishaw's points, I think as a temporary basis, this actually, to my mind, keeps it the cleanest. And I think if our administrators use current practice as the guidelines, it'll be okay for the short time period that we're talking about.
Temporary, because in a day it could become a chaotic mess.
Okay, well, I'll entertain any amendments as desired.
Well, I would suggest that we amend the motion by adding the categories that have been suggested to consider not charging fees to City of Faribault, Park and Rec, District 656, school-affiliated organizations and activities, i.e. PTA, PTO, or practice, i.e. Sports Association, and local, state, national elections and caucuses.
As the amendment is in front of us, we have a motion for that amendment. Is there a second for such an amendment?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the amendment. Okay. Any discussion on the amendment?
I'd like to hear Mr. Robishaw's concerns now. Same thing.
As long as it's very clear that anybody outside of District 656, and I think you mentioned that, in the athletic association, we will possibly be charged for rental facilities of our facilities. And I'm okay with that for now.
Okay, so we have an amendment in front of us. Mr. Clerk, if you'd like to do a roll call.
On the amendment?
On the amendment.
Which is that we include, you want to read it again?
That's why we asked Kathy to read it down. We'll go on the notes, and then Yvette can make corrections as desired.
The motion was made by Yvette, second by Howard, to amend the motion to remove the following groups from the fee structure for the facilities use. District 656 school groups, Faribault Parks and Rec groups, and state and federal state elections.
I thought there was a little, sorry, I'm going to just jump in. There's a little bit more on the school affiliated.
Did you, had given...
It was the sports, just add the...
It would include meetings for PTOs as well as practices.
I think the language is already there.
Okay. PTO.
Okay, so do we all know what we're voting on?
There was laughter in the crowd.
Mr. Chairman, are you ready for the vote?
I'm ready for the vote. I'm ready to call the question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Let's go ahead and do the roll call.
I may have missed. May I?
Well,
have you called for the vote?
I've already called for the vote, so let's go ahead and do it on the amendment.
I'll vote aye. Mr. Casper?
No.
Deb Davis?
Aye.
Yvette Marthaler?
Aye.
Richard Olson?
No.
Jerry Robichaud? And Mr. Engbrecht?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 1, 2, 3. The vote is 5-2 in favor.
All right. Now we have an original motion in front of us. If the amendment passes, we have an original motion in front of us as amended. Kathy, do you want to, we won't call a vote at this moment, but Kathy, if you want to read back the original motion with the amendment.
Motion by Tom, second by Howard, to for the school district to authorize the Faribault Public Schools Administration to use its discretion in determining usage fees for school facilities from April 22nd, 2013 through July 31st, 2013.
Can I, Mr. Casper, can we ask Mr. Casper what he wanted to speak to?
Any questions at this point? Yep, there's no call there's no call for a vote on the table, so let's open the discussion at this moment.
I still would like to table it.
I perhaps missed my opportunity to question the thought process behind the amendment. I like the original motion. I still am in favor of that, and I think it's important that we act on it promptly for the benefit of our community and our administration. It is, my only concern is that I want to ensure some way that all possible users that are have some similarity. I guess I don't want it limited to athletics. I think that there might be some community-based activities that could benefit or use these facilities, and if they were allowed to do so in whatever manner that is fair in comparison to the athletic activities, I have no problem with that. I just don't want to see them foreclosed on at this point. And I'm not sure if this amendment does that. I'm just hopeful that there would be that kind of discussion as you move forward and we ultimately come up with a usage policy, a more detailed usage policy.
You could amend the motion again.
I thought the original motion handled it. That's what I'm. How would I do that?
I'm going to try and make a suggestion here. We're making more sausage at the table here than we normally should be at this meeting. I think everyone understands the intent of what we're trying to do here. We're really only looking for a temporary fix. Things have worked quite well for many years in this district, and I think the intent of whatever we're doing is that we do not change anything at this moment, and we do not ask administration to keep violating policy. I think we have something in front of us that will do that, and we can address the very important questions that have been brought up as we look at the permanent policy that will be in place by July. So that's my suggestion. So while I'm not going to call the question, I wouldn't mind if somebody else did.
Mr. Chair, what is the procedure for tabling this? Again, can't?
What procedure for tabling it? Is a motion to table? No, you can move to table the motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to table it.
Until?
Let's set a date.
Set a date?
Mm-hmm. Next board meeting is May 13th. May 13th.
Sure, May 13th.
And
Of course, there's no policy meeting before the next board meeting.
So you want it in June?
I'm not on the policy committee,
Oh,
so.
June?
I guess, Richard, I would not, we are only voting on keeping the policy. Really, this is just about supporting the way the current policy is practiced, is what we're voting on.
Which is a violation of policy.
It is a violation of the discretion of
hang on, I'm not sure that
administrative staff.
hang on a second, because I'm not sure that a motion to table is a discussion item.
Yeah, it's only to the time and only to the time.
Right, so we can only answer whether or not what the date might be.
We do not have a policy meeting until
June. So that'd be the June.
The June organization or June meeting.
So you would like to table it until the June business meeting, whatever that
June.
date is. Okay?
the June policy.
No, June
business
board
board
meeting.
meeting.
Would be the meeting.
Now, Mr. Clerk,
Second. Well,
do we need a second for this motion?
You do need a second, yes.
Okay, so we need a second for the motion to table this item until the June
24th.
Or June 24th business meeting. Is there a second to the motion? I'm not hearing a second, so I'm going to declare that the motion has died for failure to receive a second. Okay. So we have this motion in front of us. I think we tried to be clear about what the intent of this motion is. Regardless of tabling it or not, this will be back to us in June and July to have a more complete discussion so that we can address this with all the important questions that have been asked. I'll entertain a motion at this time. We already have a motion and a second in front of us. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, would you please do a roll call?
I vote aye. Tom Casper.
In faith that the discussion will continue as stated, I vote aye.
Deb Davis.
Aye.
Yvette Marthaler.
Aye.
Richard Olson.
No.
Jerry Robichaud.
Aye.
And Jason Ingrid.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 6-1 in favor.
All right. Well, thank you all. This is an issue, I think you can sort of see the spirit of what the board is trying to address this evening. We're sort of working on some difficult and less than optimal conditions to try and make it work for our administrators as well as the many organizations that I think have question marks about whether or not they're going to start getting charged, and we want to reassure them that things will continue in the way that they've been expecting in the past. So I thank you for your work on this. In spite of the fact that it was not straightforward or easy this evening.
Well, I want to thank you too. I appreciate the direction that you've given us because it has been pretty difficult the last month with this piece. So I very much appreciate the direction you've given both Anne-Marie and I.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Okay. We've handled item policy 902. We have a few policies then to rescind.
Mr. Chair, can I just interject one more time?
Please do.
Since we have Anne-Marie up there, would it be possible to hear her community ed report?
Oh, we had talked about it. I didn't know.
Is that all right?
Sorry. At the beginning of the meeting, we had suggested we would do that at this time. So
That's okay. Thank you. Actually, I'll merge community education and wellness together. We had a very successful wellness fair for students at the high school last week. It was sponsored by Sodexo, of course, our food service partner, Fitness in Motion, Riverbend Nature Center, U.S. Army, District 1 Hospital, Erickson Chiropractic, and of course the schools. There was slacklining. Do you guys know what that is? There was all sorts of different activities that the students were able to participate in, as well as learn about nutrition and well-being. So it was very successful. Hats off to the Student Wellness Committee, which Lori Deal is a part of Sodexo. She's our food service director. She had a big part in it. Becky Leipert with community education. Barb Storm, who's a teacher, all really pulled together a fantastic health fair. So that's my update. It was during that very bad snowstorm too, so I wasn't able to get up there. Did you go? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Todd, do you want to say anything about it?
No, it was very well done. I thought the U.S. Army also was incorporated in this whole piece, so it was very well attended and very well done. So
yeah. And that's all I have. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, back to the policies. We have a number of policies in front of us. Would anyone like to inform the board on why we're looking at rescinding these following policies? Policy 902, use of school district facilities and equipment. Policy 204.5, organizational meeting of Board of Education. Policy 204.8, conduct of meetings. Anybody like to address those?
They're just the policies that you approved above cover these policies that you have. These are just old policies that we'd like to have the board rescind, so they don't duplicate.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to rescind these three policies in one act.
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
A motion and a second to rescind the three policies as stated earlier. Any questions or comments on these items? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Next on the agenda, finance. Starting with a finance committee report. With our esteemed treasurer, I'd like to
You gotta give me a minute, I just died.
take your time.
Yeah, we're running to battery problems tonight.
Okay. We met on April 8th and discussed a few different things. The AVID Math and Science Summer Bridge Program, Adult Basic Ed, Triton Consortium Agreement. We talked about the sanding and refinishing of the high school gym, the Numlin gym, which is the new one, right? I get confused.
Yes, that's right.
Kevin calls it one thing and we call it something else, and I got. And then we tabled the resurfacing of the tennis courts. Overall, it was a good meeting. We talked about technology, which you guys saw at the April 8th work session. Nothing really out of the ordinary. We did make some recommendations to approve things that are on the agenda coming up. And our next meeting is May 6th.
Excellent. Any questions on the report? Okay. Hearing none, we have a number of items in front of us, starting with item 8B1, the AVID Math and Science Summer Bridge Program. Any questions or comments on this item?
Move approval.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this item. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item up is 8B2, Adult Basic Education Faribault Triton Consortium Agreement. Any questions or comments on this item? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve this agreement.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Adult Basic Education Faribault Triton Consortium Agreement. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the bond project update. Are we going to have a presentation, or are we just opening this up to questions?
We can, Colleen and I can try to answer as many questions as we can. Kevin is sick tonight, so he's not able to make it, but we can go through those if you'd like to have any general questions. Otherwise, you may want to save your specific questions for when Kevin's here.
Okay. Other questions at this time on this item?
So basically, after the 15 million, we're only going to end up returning to the taxpayer 40,000. Is that what that means?
I think, well, I don't know. It depends on what the board is. It's kind of a hard question for us to answer right now. The board has the discretion of either returning the money to taxpayers or using that money so you get down to the amount the taxpayers approve to balance the budget. There might be some projects that beforehand we did not quite, we actually took off the list. Come over, you better help me answer. This is the partial piece that I think you need Mr. Hildebrand here or Mr. Mergestor.
If you look at the first page where it lists all the projects, all the detail by building on the very first page of that, you'll see that there are 2 projects, well, 3 probably, they're just in different buildings, but the one project that, or the projects that don't have any amount in the columns where it says total spent to date, the first one is a hot water boiler at the high school, and then you go down the hardware in the B section at the high school, and then there's hardware upgrade at the middle school. Those are the 3 projects that we initially put into this 15 million that are currently not completed. Otherwise, every other project has been completed. So at this point, we have 39,000 left to finish those 3 projects. And what Kevin would like to do is work on the hardware in the high school and the middle school and use that money to continue to do what we said we were going to do.
So we're going to be short?
No, we're not. He's not doing the boiler project. That one is tabled because he might go a different direction with that. So no, we're not short.
Because over a period of time, as a member of the Finance Committee, we were, at least I was, under the impression that we're going to be about $500,000 to the good.
No, that was an initial discussion when we were asked to shoot from the hip, which we did, and one of the things that we forgot about was the initial bond payment that was made that was almost that $500,000 that was made out of the bond proceeds. And that was planned and in all of the literature that the board got when we did this bond issue.
And I wasn't necessarily here for all those discussions, but when I look at the picture, I look at it as a total project cost, and the projects that we've gone through, we're still in the black, is how I look at it.
We did darn near every single project except for the boilers at the high school. And I think initially when Kevin put together this list, you're looking 5 years out and trying to project what costs are for 5 years. And we certainly put more on the list than we knew we could ever get done for 15 million, because we wanted to have some options about what you do and what you don't do, because looking 5 years out is very difficult. I think it's amazing that we were able to accomplish all these projects with the exception of that boiler at the high school. And we were very fortunate that we hit some very good years for bidding. We were the winners in that process. I think had it been different, many of these projects would not have gotten done. It's very typical that when you plan that kind of a bond issue where you're doing all this deferred maintenance, that you put in more than you think you're going to get done, so you have some options.
Yeah, I think projecting construction costs 5 years out is a very difficult task. And in this first year or two, the construction industry had taken a big hit, and so we were ahead of schedule. But the last 3 years have not been the same way.
Yeah,
so
and a couple of the projects were much larger scope than we ever anticipated too. If you remember the track at Bruce Smith Field, we thought we would just have to go down a couple layers. We ended up, as they got into it, having to go down to the surface and redo the entire thing, which almost doubled that project, which, we were, again, very fortunate that we had the good bids we did and had the money to complete that project. So I think it was money very well spent. We got a lot done. We got a great bang for our buck.
And our needs for building maintenance are unending.
Absolutely.
So I think there won't be any trouble spending the $39,000, finding places to spend it.
Right.
I do think I want to be clear on that point, though. The $39,000, though, I expect to be going into things that were on the original list.
Yes.
And I think there are items on here to do that.
The hardware, yeah, that's what Kevin would like to finish up, the hardware at the high school and the middle school, and take that as far as he can with that $39,000.
And just so you get a point of clarification, because I know our folks are going to be watching this at home, and I'm just going to say this more rhetorically, but we cannot use this money in the general fund to pay for teachers or anything else like that, correct?
Right, correct. If we had had this $39,000 left and we had completed all of our projects on our list, we had nothing left to do, then you as a board would be required to give that back to the taxpayers. And we can post this information. It'll be on Board Book, but we certainly can post it on the website too, so it's a little bit easier to find.
Well, I just want to also to add to the things that have just been said. I just counted, I think, 57 different projects here that were on the original list when we went to taxpayers. starting almost 5 years ago now. And 56 of those have been accomplished for the amount that we gave to the community that they would be accomplished. That, frankly, is a remarkable feat given how much construction costs can vary from year to year. So I think that's a overall project really well done. There is no action to take at this time. Are there any further questions on these items in front of us?
I think before we leave this year, it's appropriate to commend Kevin for the work that he's done and the good job he's done of letting out bids and bringing them to us. And I had a chance to ride with him last fall and look at some of the projects in the fall before that, and I'm always impressed by the knowledge that he has and the thoroughness that he has in doing these projects, and also the oversight that he gives to the projects to make sure that they're done according to the specs.
Yeah, I think what you don't maybe realize is that he had an 8-hour-a-day job prior to adding a $15 million bond issue to his job for 5 years. So I really commend him too, because he's put in a lot of 16-hour days to get this done to save the district money rather than hire a construction manager, because a lot of districts would have done that with an issue this size, but he did a great job.
Whenever you get a final accounting, bottom line, close out.
This is pretty close, but we've got, a few, you might have seen in the other column, we've got a few bills left over yet for some punch lists that need to be done, and then the hardware. So I'm guessing within the next 6 months that will be done, but I'm not sure what his timeline is on the hardware.
Any further questions? All right, hearing none. Item 10C. Am I on the right spot? No, I'm in other matters, sorry. Item 8B4. Too many notes on my agenda. Quotes for sanding and refinishing high school Nolan Gym. This is an action item.
So moved.
We have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this item?
When will this be done?
I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly. We'll be doing it in the summer, so we'll have to maneuver different schedules within the summer around there, but it'll be done before next fall.
What was the gym we had to replace the flooring?
That was the old gym.
That was the old gym? Oh, okay.
Kevin explained this at the finance meeting, and it's been how many years now?
It's been a long time. I can't remember.
Anyway, it's due, so.
It's like you redo it like every 10 years or something, and we're at that point already.
Oh, okay.
You've been using the gym for,
I think we're at 15 years.
Yeah, I think so.
But he said it was appropriate to do it now that it's...
Okay. I think we had a motion and a second. Is that correct? We have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have a number of reports then, including our enrollment report, which looks to be in line with our projections for this year at this time. Any questions on this? Additionally, a financial report.
Yeah, we have to do...
And then if there's not any questions on the enrollment report or the financial report, we'll move on to approval of gifts and donations. We have a number of them tonight, so I'll read through them. From the Faribault Blue Line Club, $4,000 for the assistant hockey coach salary. From the Faribault Booster Club, $5,047.24 for more equipment from Cybex. For the high school fitness center. Item number 3 from the Kiwanis Club of Faribault, $100 a donation to help fund various Trek Alternative Learning Center field trips. Item number 4 from the Faribault Moose Lodge, $2,098 $50 to help fund various Trek Alternative Learning Center field trips. And finally, from the State Bank of Faribault, $100 to help fund various Trek Alternative Learning Center field trips. So as always, we thank all of community members who step forward to work with our district and help out the many good causes that there are within our district. And so at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion?
One question on the Blue Line, and I commend the Blue Line for its willingness to donate the $4,000. That assistant coach becomes our employee, is that correct?
Yeah, the purpose, yeah, exactly. We want them to flow the money through our school system, so we have them as our employee. That's correct.
All right, we are now on to other matters. We've already done other committee reports. Oh, I'm sorry, that's an action item. Thank you, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Robichaud. So we do have a motion and a second, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the gifts and donations as described. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. I apologize for that. We have already covered the other committee reports, as there is no insurance committee report this evening.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
When is the next insurance committee?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay, I didn't get notified.
Okay.
I'm on the insurance, and
Check with Brenda and see why she didn't get you sent up.
because I said, I haven't heard anything. Because I'm on the insurance company.
She sent the numbers out last week. I
didn't get it.
I'll check with her, see where she is at that time. 3:45 in the district office.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a snow day tomorrow?
I'd just like to make a comment that I wasn't able to get in when Ann was here. I attended the community ed meeting here a week ago, and we had a couple of outstanding presentations from Ms. Judy Covert and Ms. Lisa Wetzel about some of our pre-K and Kids World activities. And having been in the community for a long time, I still learned a lot, and I was very, very impressed with the leadership that those individuals have given to those projects, and it was very impressive, and I encourage you to find out more about what those programs have to offer, particularly if you have young children.
Thank you. Okay. On to other matters. Item 10, other matters. Item 10A, approve the 2013 Faribault High School Summer School Program, and you have that in front of you. So this is new for the board to look at. It's not a new program. It's not a new budget. This is the same program that has been in place. It has already been budgeted in there, so this is not a request for additional funding or anything like that. Simply a look at the summer school course offerings, and the district is asking us to take an official action to approve these, which is not something we have traditionally done.
Actually, I think you have. Just last year we didn't do it.
Last year we missed it?
Yeah, last year we missed it. Then the years before you actually have approved.
So we're going back to approving.
Back to
right,
approving. Yes.
You.
Yep.
I misunderstood that.
Astronomy, I saw it.
Astronomy's been going on for quite a while.
Yeah.
There's only one semester this year?
I think.
I don't have anything for a second.
They've only got 6 weeks. The course is only 6 weeks long, so.
Yeah, they're different dates in there, right? June 4th through July 16th, and one is June 4th through June 21st.
Oh.
Mine say first semester, June 4th through the 20th.
Yep.
Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. One goes through
They
July.
overlap.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're in there, but they're just not.
Thank you. Yep. That's where I got it.
Yep.
Okay. Any further questions on this item?
How much of this is credit recovery and how much is it enrichment?
Oh, that's a good question. Wish I had my director of curriculum teaching in here. I'm sorry, Jerry, I don't know, but that's a great question. I can actually, that would be good information for the board to have anyway, so I'll send that out.
Well, I know that the Phi Ed and 10th grade Phi Ed and 10th grade health has to do with the music program, so that they have everyday band and so they can take it during the summer.
I suspect the social studies is
Probably, yeah.
I'll get that.
That's right.
All right. Any other questions on this item?
My battery is dead.
Hearing none, if my memory can be relied upon, I do not think there's been a motion or a second on this. Okay. I haven't been batting 1,000 on this tonight, so I'm not sure.
I would make a motion to approve the.
I have a motion now. We have a motion and a second at this point. I do not believe we voted yet, so barring any further discussion.
Seconded?
Yes, Mr. Olson, second. I think I heard Mr. Olson second.
Yeah, I was
Mr.
gonna
Olson
say, yeah,
seconded
Richard
the motion. So we have a motion and a second to approve the 2013 Faribault High School Summer School Program. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Mr. Chair, I think you're doing a commendable job.
Motion carries.
Not that much.
Was that part of that motion? I would clarify that.
Item 10B. Discuss and approve changes to the youth that we already did.
We already did that.
Forward.
You want to go through that?
Let me take that back.
No. I'm just reading off here. I recognized it before anybody said anything. Item 10, other matters. Item 10C, approve resolution 1303, placing non-probationary staff on ULA status for the 13-14 year. To jog your memory on this, and Mr. Sesker, you can correct me if I'm wrong. At our last meeting, we approved the same list of students, of teachers to, I think if I understand this right, that the last action was to notify them that they would be placed on the list. This action actually places them on the list.
Correct.
At this time. So it's a continuation of the previous motion. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Reluctantly.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion of this item?
Has anybody filed, what do you call that?
Yeah, the appeal.
The appeal?
Yes, there has been one appeal that's been filed, and we're currently looking at that, but that will not affect the ULAs right now.
Oh, this is not dealing with these people?
It would be dealing with an individual that's on this list, but we still have to go through this process in order for the appeal to go.
Okay.
Any further discussion on this item? All right, hearing none, Mr. Clerk, would you please do a roll call?
I'll vote aye. Tom Casper,
Aye.
Deb Davis,
Aye.
Yvette Marthaler,
Aye.
Richard Olson,
No.
Jerry Robichaud, and Chairman Ingrid.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 6 in favor, 1 against.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. That brings us to the end of regular business. So we are now at item 11A. Other items of information. Our student representative is not joining us this evening.
She was sick. She was here yesterday. She said she's going to be here tonight, but she couldn't make it because she is not feeling very well. But she did want me to highlight that prom is coming this weekend. Prom is this weekend.
Oh, 66 degrees, too.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, it's going to be warm.
It's supposed to be warmer by this weekend.
And snowshoes.
Why didn't
I am not going to ask for So the schedule 3:30 is Grand March. If you want to go watch that. 5:15, they load the buses. 6:30 p.m. they arrive at Valentino's. 11:15 p.m. they load buses. And 12:30 a.m. the post-prom begins, and then 5 a.m. the post-prom ends. So you have kind of an idea of how that all works.
Any board members chaperoning this year?
I'm sure they're always looking for volunteers. So.
Not this year.
She also said
looking for chaperones?
No.
Are you still looking for chaperones?
Yeah, we're actually down by a few.
There you go.
There you go, Jason.
Let me talk to my wife.
It's fun. It's a fun.
I've been there. It's actually a fun time.
It's actually fun. So if you guys are interested in doing it,
I say actually fun.
Fun, yeah, it was real fun.
I enjoyed myself that evening.
Trying to coax you. Also, the students are starting up the blood drive setup, and their goal is 93 donors. The blood drive is May 16th, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. So get a hold of Sophia if you are interested in donating some blood. And the Student Council is now doing petitions to get ready for the upcoming school year. And I'm not sure exactly what that all entails, but that's her report. What is it?
Student council officers.
Oh, okay, I got you. They're officers for next year. And that's all she has.
Question is the Grand March being taped and rebroadcast? But he looked busy.
All right. Next are items of information from school board members. Any items of information?
I did go to the play. It was wonderful. It was very interesting to watch people fly across the stage, needless to say, but they did a wonderful, wonderful job. It was a lot of fun.
I did not go, but my daughter did, and she loved it.
Yeah, it was.
I went, and I agree, it was a fantastic production, amazing talent among our students and our staff that helped support that. I'd like to issue a challenge to the Minnesota State Legislature to come up with an assessment for the value of that program. Maybe they could do a multiple guest test.
I'd add, I attended the fair mini conference at the senior high school community I put on, and that was about newcomers and developing programs for them, and it was very interesting, exciting, and I'm going to visit a program in Rochester.
This was the run by St. Olaf.
St. Olaf and the fair and the community.
So of course it was fantastic.
It was great. The speaker from Rochester was great. He had great ideas and programs.
Okay. Not hearing any other items of information from the school board. Mr. Superintendent.
I'll comment. The Wizard of Oz, I agree with all of you. It was an outstanding production, and kudos to Paul Johnson and his crew and the students who put that all on. So great job. I was at the mini conference and helped organize that with Kathy Tegmeyer-Peck from St. Olaf College, and I do have to agree with Mr. Engbrecht. It was done very well. The St. Olaf students did an outstanding job facilitating the meeting, and Catherine did an outstanding job of organizing it and making that meeting go. So congratulations to both the fair and also the St. Olaf group. I've attended the Big 9 meeting, and some news that we'd like to share, and maybe some of you have already heard, is that there is a proposal to let Red Wing and Northfield into the Big 9 conference. The athletic directors will be voting on that. Is that May 8th coming up?
You're voting on that.
Yeah, that's right. I am voting on that with the recommendation from the athletic directors. So if you have any feedback or if you have any input for me with regard to that, I think it is a good situation for not only Northfield and Red Wing, but I think it also is good for the Big 9 conference.
So going back to where it was originally.
That's right. Yeah, a long time ago. I also attended the AAC meeting, which is an advisory council meeting for the Southeast Service Co-op. It's a nice connection that I have. We're in both the South Central Service Co-op and also the Southeast Service Co-op, and both organizations offer some nice things for our school district to take advantage of. Also in Mankato at the PDS meeting, our PDS relationship is our professional development relationship with University of Minnesota Mankato, and they're really very much in support of the AVID program as one, the co-teaching model, some of those other pieces that we put together. They provide a lot of the research and the resources for us to do that. In fact, a lot of the funding comes from the Bush Foundation, which flows through the University of Minnesota Mankato, that helps us provide some of these unique opportunities for programs. Was on KDHL last week. Had a good mood, always a good meeting with Gordy. And we met with Deb and Richard to fill in what we talked about at the board meeting last week with the school board work session. That went well. I was also at the groundbreaking ceremony for South Central College. Congratulations to South Central on securing that state dollar amount, and they're going to begin their construction as soon as the snow clears up. And and the C meeting, again, that's our Schools for Equity and Education, trying to figure out good ways to help not only our taxpayers but also help funding school districts to lobby the legislature and learn a lot of different issues and legislative issues that are going on right now as we speak. We won't really know anything again till probably mid-May. A lot of discussion right now, so we're just all going to have to be patient to see what comes out. And that's all I have to report.
All right. Excellent. So with that, just a few more items, some dates to remember. May 6, 2013, at 7:30, the Finance Committee meeting will be in the district office. May 6, 2013 at 5:30 p.m. Will be a school board work session in the district office. May 13th at 4:45 p.m. Curriculum Committee meeting in the district office. And May 13th, 6:30 p.m. Our regular board meeting right back here in City Hall in May. So that is it.
May I add a date in there to remember?
Please do.
May 3rd is the Big Nine Music Concert in Rochester. And I'm going to the concert for sure. Jason, you guys are going, right?
Now that you remind me, yes, I am. That's in my calendar, yeah. That's exactly right.
We talked about maybe adding an additional meeting in May regarding the budget and changes. Is that something we're going to discuss tonight, or look at possibilities for that?
What's the feeling of the board on that? So by May 13th, we were hoping to be able to act on some financial items, potential add-backs and such things once we've heard from the state. Even if we have heard back from the state by May 13th, we may not have had time to process that. My suggestion would be that we wait until the May 13th meeting. See, I think we'll have a really good, hopefully we'll have a very good sense of what the state's time schedule will be. And I'd be happy to entertain scheduling 1 or 2 more meetings for that month at that time, so that we can act as quickly as we can once we have a really good picture of what's coming from the state. Mr. Olson.
May 30th, I think he sent to all board members, but that's the wrap-up. What's the financial director at the state? Tom Melcher in Rochester. He's going to various parts of the state, and he'll be going to that. But that's what, after the session ends May 20th, he's going to give a wrap-up of exactly what they did to us.
Or for us.
Or for us.
I mean, I think it'd just be good to be aware that we might have another public meeting.
Yes, so I think that's a good point, that we should mention that there could easily be another meeting or potentially even 2 more meetings towards the end of May as we hear from the state and act upon what we learn from those meetings.
Good point.
Okay. Thank you with that. All right. Unless there's further comments on dates to remember, the board will now adjourn into a closed session to discuss